Madam Speaker, I rise to second, and if you have no objections, I would keep standing while I make my contribution, or do I have to sit down and get back up? It's a little difficult for me to get up. Continue?
Continue.
Madam Speaker, there's no question that the Premier has just made some excellent points, valid points, points that will touch the heart of a lion. I'm not claiming to be any lion here, Madam Speaker, but one of the points he mentioned, Madam Speaker, is he raised the issue of persons who have been victims of crimes. And he mentioned Ms. Pickering, and he talked about her being a friend, her being the friend, the wife of his friend and the mother of his friend. I can't let that go by without saying that her mother and her grandmother was my neighbor until they passed. She herself was almost likely to have been born as a neighbor to me. And she would have been a constituent of the member for the 6th. Being that she grew up in Bellevue, or born in Bellevue, and lived in Barbara's Bay. So, Madam Speaker, these issues regarding the matter before us, in order for the Director of Public Prosecutions and the police to gather evidence and bring success in convictions, are nothing that any of us, I believe, in this House are shying away from. And another point the Premier made is that the bill that's before us came in a certain form. And giving our intelligence in this House, there's absolutely no need for it to go back the way it came. We've proven that. I want to give, Madam Speaker, as I speak, kudos to the members of this House for the work they've done. The evidence is there. By being judicious and diligent as far as their work as legislators are concerned when it came to bills being brought before this House and us doing our jobs in the form of public service management bill that came before us, where anyone will tell you that the members of this House referred to the Constitution of the land and made sure that when the bill left here, it conformed to the Constitution. Totally different from the way it came in. This bill is something like 17 pages long, something like that. No. Yeah, 17 pages long. Very small. Kind of heavy. I remember at the end of the 4th House of Assembly, Madam Speaker, this bill came before us at the end. And as the Premier said, it died a quick death. He said quick or slow? Quick, it died a death. And rightfully so, because the problems were there before us and we couldn't afford for it to leave the way it came. The members of that House of Assembly, Madam Speaker, were not the same as the members of this House. They were equally smart. But I put my bet on this House as far as the intelligence of members are concerned, that they will do what is necessary to have this bill fixed. Madam Speaker, I am one of those who are troubled by the bill in the form that in which it is before us. I am troubled. But like I said, Madam Speaker, I am confident that members of this House will work to ensure that when it leaves the way we want it to be. Madam Speaker, I want to just refer to the Constitution Section 35 of the Constitution says, there shall be a governor of the Virgin Islands who shall be appointed by His Majesty by commission under his sign, manual, and signet, and shall hold office during His Majesty's pleasure. 2. The governor shall have such powers and duties as are conferred or imposed on him or her by this Constitution or any other law. I want to point out, Madam Speaker, there's nothing that this House can do. We have a responsibility for checks and balances on the executive. There's nothing that this House can do about the powers that's conferred upon the governor by the Constitution. But they certainly can do something about the powers conferred on him by law, except that law is imperial law, which we haven't seen any in a long time. I don't expect to see any more. By law, those that are conferred upon him by law has to come through this House. And if members don't want him to have those powers by law, then you fix the law, or you don't let the law leave here. If it leaves here, he doesn't want to assent to it, that's another problem, another situation. But this is one such situation, Madam Speaker, where the powers that are inscribed here on this bill, asking us for passage, you don't have to pass it. Certainly not in the way it is right now. So let's spend some time. This is the first sitting of the second session of the 5th House of Assembly, meaning that there are a lot of sittings to go. At least 12 months worth of sitting, or maximum 12 months worth of sitting. We got time. So let's try to work on this and see how we can fix it. Madam Speaker, I'm looking at the bill itself now. It's talking about, in 35B, it talks about witness statements. 35B2 says, witness statements shall be recorded in a manner that ensures the accuracy and integrity of the evidence, including audio or video recording where possible. Madam Speaker, then it goes, and if I go to 35C, 5, it says where it is not reasonably practicable to record an interview by video recording or audio recording pursuant to subsection 2 and 4, the investigating officer shall record in the custody record of the suspect the reason the interview could not be recorded by video recording or audio recording. You see, Madam Speaker, this kind of gibberish and double talk we cannot tolerate. You can't tell someone that they must do something. Before you come in the gate, you must signal the gate man, and he must give you a signal to come in. But you deliberately did not signal the gate man. You deliberately didn't wait for a signal to come in. You came in, and after you got inside, you're now telling me, well, if all that didn't happen, it's okay. So you think I'm going to waste my time waiting to signal the gate man and wait for him to give me a signal if I know that if I get in, there's no penalty? So, Madam Speaker, we have to be alert. We have to make sure that when things come before us, we're not taken for granted. And this is one such thing. This is only one I'm pointing out for now. I think, Madam Speaker, before a witness, and everyone is a suspect. You told me that I'm a witness and you asked me for a statement. Witnesses has to be careful to make sure that when they're giving statements, they're not a party to whatever this incident is. So, should a witness be given the opportunity to give consent to giving statements or making statements? The police just walk up to the person and says, you are witness to something that took place, we'd like to have a statement from you, and the person doesn't know, to just give a statement. I have a problem with something like that, Madam Speaker. And those are the kind of things that I wish to point out. And I wish to make clear that in making this bill a law, we get the opportunity to do exactly what the Premier said. It doesn't have to go back the way it came. We have an opportunity to fix things. Madam Speaker, 35B5. It says the governor may make regulations prescribing the procedures. A, the taking, handling, and storage of witness statements. B, the training of police officers in the procedures under paragraph A. And C, such other matters as are necessary or expedient to give effect to this section. Madam Speaker, the governor may make regulations. Members of this House should know, as I pointed out just a few seconds ago, that this is a law. This is one that gives the governor his marching orders, and it comes from us. But you can't just have the governor make regulations and that's it. You should ask for a positive resolution in this House. When I sat over there, things have changed. When I sat over there, I would get up and say to my colleagues over here, why did you bring this thing here? Didn't you read it? I mean, come on, guys. Now I'm over here, and I'm telling you plain up, straight up. You didn't read it. You brought it here. This is the place where you got to fix it. If you don't fix this, and everything else that comes here, it's on you. I'm telling you, now you know. Fix it here, because you didn't see it. No. I honest, I didn't read it. No, I'm gonna read it. you know the whole the table turned. It turned completely from the time I was a member of cabinet to the time I'm a member of cabinet now. Totally different ballgame. I blame Ronnie them for that. Yeah, it's not these guys. I blame those guys for it. So, Premier said it, I'm saying it. Fix this piece of legislation before it leaves here. It's going to come no matter what. But you can fix it. We can fix it. Madam Speaker, 35C, 5. Where it is not reasonably practicable to record an interview. Okay, I read that one before. 8. An investigating officer shall record in a witness statement any reason for the failure of complying with any provisions of this section. If you didn't comply with any provisions of this section, any section of this, the evidence is out. There should be no two ways about it. An investigating officer shall record in a witness statement any reason for the failure of complying with any provisions of this section. How could you fail to comply with a provision of any section and expect the evidence to be good? What are you taking us for? So we need to take our time and tighten up this thing. We need to take our time and tidy up this thing. The way it's coming here before us and expect it to just flow through is unreasonable if you're looking at 13 intelligent people. Especially the fact that some of us got PhDs and all that stuff. And some of us are lawyers. Evidence obtained in the course of an interview shall not be rendered inadmissible by reasons only of the fact that it has been recorded in one form and not another. We have to tell them straight up, Evidence obtained must be recorded in two fashions. That's what we want. Don't say it because it was recorded in one form and not another. It's not admissible. So why ask for both? You either need it, you want it, or just ask for one. Again, all responsibility. 10. The governor may issue codes of practice under Section 28. What are these codes of practice? How are they different from regulations? We need to find out. Unless they are distinctly different, don't try to bamboozle us with gibberish. Is there a code of conduct different from the regulations? If they are, tell us, and why. Again, whatever they are, it should be brought before this Honourable House for positive resolution. This law is made by us, and whoever is being governed by this law shall follow the laws that we write. A person who commits, let me tell you where I'm at, 12, 35C12. A person who commits an offense under Section 11 is liable on summary conviction to a fine of $100,000 and to imprisonment for up to 5 years, or B, on conviction on indictment to a fine of $500,000 and to imprisonment of up to 10 years. Now, what is that conviction of Section 11? Any person who, without lawful authority, possesses, plays, or offers to supply a recording of an interview under this section to any person, or copies, tampers with, modifies, erases, publishes, or dismantles, or disseminates a recording of an interview under this section, commits an offense. And that's the offense that the person is going to be liable for $100,000 fine or 5 years in prison, or upon conviction, $500,000 or 10 years. I fail to see the connection between these two, punishment and the alleged crime. Because I'm sure, Madam Speaker, that evidence is flying out there, collected evidence is flying out there every day. Like, you just probably don't see it in the blogs. You read the blogs, you don't know who they're talking about, what they're talking about, but those are dog whistles, people know what they're talking about. They send messages to those blogs. And that's another thing, when we get to that cybercrime bill, Madam Speaker, we collectively has to remember that we have to tie that up. I don't believe that punishment that's described here is commensurate with that little crime that they're talking about. 13, Madam Speaker, the governor in consultation with the commissioner and the director of public prosecution may make regulations respecting the procedure to be followed, the type of equipment to be used, and the arrangements to be made where a person is to use any audio or video recording medium. Madam Speaker, I have a question regarding this. I want to know where it talks about the governor in consultation with the commissioner and the director of public prosecution. Where does the director of public prosecution fit in to making laws or advising on the making of laws? I see it this way, Madam Speaker, that the director of public prosecution is the government's prosecutor. And the person who is on trial would have their own defense attorney. They have their own defense attorney. Where does that defense attorney get a chance to talk to the governor about these things? Where's the equity, Madam Speaker? I personally don't see where did the Director of Public Prosecutions fit in as far as the making of law is concerned. Somebody needs to enlighten me about what takes place internationally, around the world, around the globe, and convince me that there is a role. I thought the police is the one who gather evidence. I didn't know it was the Director of Public Prosecution, but I don't know what obtains here. Again, the procedures to be followed for the type of equipment to be used and the arrangements to be made where a person is to use any audio or video recording medium. The types of photographs, screens, and support devices, form to be provided, are submitted for the purposes of part, and for such other matters as are necessary or expedient for giving effect to this section. Again, Madam Speaker, I emphasize these regulations, again, must be subjected to a positive resolution. Controlled delivery. This is something that we need to take note of, Madam Speaker. Controlled delivery means the technique of allowing illicit or suspect consignments to pass out of, through, or into the territory of one or more states with the knowledge and under the supervision of their competent authorities, with a view to the investigation of an offense and the identification of persons involved in the commission of the offense. Madam Speaker, the short question I have, isn't this something, wouldn't you call this illegal entrapment? What do you call something like that, Madam Speaker? I thought that I put that police officer out there to prevent crime. I didn't tell him sit under the tree and hide behind the drum and wait till the crime is committed and then you show yourself. I told you to stand there to make sure that these people know that you're there. There's crime prevention, Madam Speaker. That's why we say when you put up the cameras, you have to put up a sign. This guy wouldn't normally take a leak under the tree, Madam Speaker. If you know he's being watched, he wouldn't do it. So you tell him, oh no, you shouldn't have done that. This is indecent exposure. It's all kinds of things. So, and don't get me wrong, Premier. My views regarding people who do things that are illegal, this should be, of course, apprehended and, if necessary, punished. But I don't believe that we should get involved in entrapment. Don't believe we should be party to that. That's what I see that to be. The monitoring or recording of activities by electronic means for the purposes of investigating a serious offense that has been, is being, or may be committed. See, electronic surveillance, that's what electronic surveillance means. Electronic surveillance means A, the monitoring, interception, copying, or acquisition of messages, data, or signal transmission by electronic means, or B, the monitoring or recording of activities by electronic means for the purposes of investigating a serious offense that has been, is being, or may be committed. Now, I have a problem, Madam Speaker, with I don't have a problem with is being. I have a problem with, I don't have a problem with has been either. But I have a problem or maybe committed. Or maybe committed. Electronic surveillance. I think we have to be careful, Madam Speaker, again, with this electronic surveillance that we're talking about. Like I spend some time going to visit someone. And I want to make it clear, Madam Speaker, when I say I don't mean me personally. Because I don't want to see that nonsense out there written that Fraser was there and so happened. You know, we live in a society where people have no discretion. But I spent some time going to see that large member. And while I'm waiting outside, I'm there walking around the yard. I see someone coming, I stand up and I hail that person, or stop the person and hail them. When I finally got into his office, I see he has this board on the wall of every angle around his office. Electronic shots. Watching people. Every move they make. Is that shouldn't something like that be illegal, Madam Speaker? I have a problem with that. So this is what they're talking about, this electronic surveillance, Madam Speaker. I sympathize with the police, and I don't know if I sympathize with them. The police want to stay in his office and know what's going on down by the fire station. When he's supposed to be out there driving around patrolling. And I have a problem, Madam Speaker. I remember, Madam Speaker, walking the streets of New York. And it could be any hour of night. And you do walk the street any hour of night. Sometimes by choice, sometimes without choice. It could be 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. You walk 5 blocks, you're scared as the devil, and up comes a police patrol. You start feeling a sense of confidence, Madam Speaker. The police pass by. And then you walk another 5 blocks, you start feeling a little nervous. Then you see a police officer pass by, you start feeling good again. That's how you prevent crime. A lot of crime get prevented because of the presence of the police. This relying on electronic surveillance, Madam Speaker. Well, I need to see where this electronic surveillance is so that I would know, or the person would know. They're safe, they're being watched, or the person would know not to commit a crime because they're being watched. But none of that is happening. You got a surveillance. You're going to wait till the guy commit the crime, then you go grab him. You could have prevented it. So when we talk about electronic surveillance, let's talk about how we're going to display this surveillance. Madam Speaker. And those are the kind of things that they don't have in the bill, the draft bill. It's our responsibility to make sure that it goes in. Investigating authority, Madam Speaker, means a police officer or other law enforcement officer who have been given authorization to carry out a special investigation or investigative technique under this part in writing by the Commissioner. Now, law enforcement officer means, remember it says, investigating authority means a police officer or other law enforcement officer. A law enforcement officer means A, a member of the police force. The force means, I guess that's police force. B, an officer of the Customs Department. C, an officer of the Immigration Department. D, an officer of the Financial Investigating Agency. Or E, any other person authorized under any law to perform functions related to the enforcement of criminal law or the investigation, prevention, detection, or prosecution of a criminal offense. My only question about all these people, Madam Speaker, is the commissioner going to give them authorization? He's going to give authorization to a customs officer, an immigration officer? How does that work? The commissioner, that means the commissioner of police. We're going to give these people authorization in writing. Someone needs to explain that, Madam Speaker. In the definition, Madam Speaker, it says serious offense. Serious offense means an offense for which the penalty includes imprisonment for a term of more than 1 year. Seriously, Madam Speaker? 1 year penalty is considered a serious offense? Madam Speaker, it doesn't. You walking down the street and you crack a guy a clout, that's a year. You call that a serious offense? You don't know what the guy said to you when you pass it. You pass by the guy and he says something to you, you just turn around, crack him a clout. 1 year in prison. You call that a serious offense? You're making a mockery of a real serious offense, Madam Speaker. Are you trying to use that terminology to pick up everybody on the street? Covert operation, Madam Speaker, definition, means the technique whereby a law enforcement officer or an individual acting under the direction of a law enforcement authority assumes a covert or false identity to obtain evidence or information regarding suspected criminal activities. Madam Speaker, again, these are the things that, you see, if you can categorize a certain people, a group of persons, as criminals, and you're correct in labeling them as criminals, I have no problems with this definition. But Madam Speaker, this definition speaks to every man, woman, and child walking the street. The technique whereby a law enforcement officer or an individual acting under the direction of a law enforcement authority assumes a covert or false identity. You could use it against me. Covert or false identity. You could use it against you. If you got to use a covert or false identity to catch a criminal, that's a form of entrapment, Madam Speaker. They put these federal agents on the aircraft. And then the hijacker go ahead and do what he intended to do. If that guy was wearing a uniform, he wouldn't have done it. So you wait until, I really don't understand the techniques. And then they call themselves brilliant. They call themselves detective. They call themselves this and that. I don't know, man. I didn't sign up for this. They're party to this. I mean, it's almost like calling me down to your office and telling me, yes, I did this, sign off on it for me. Man, you serious? Oh. For the purposes of the definition of controlled delivery, come back to that. A reference to illicit or suspect consignment includes consignments of narcotic drugs, currency, firearms, ammunition, explosives, and other related materials. And B, a reference to a designated competent authority means the authorizing authority or the investigating authority. Remember, Madam Speaker, when I spoke earlier about control delivery? You see the kind of things that they could deliver under control? Narcotic drugs, currency, firearms, ammunition, explosives, and other related materials. Now, you're telling me that the commissioner can give authority to an officer to go undercover, go up by skeleton, or get some explosives, put it in a bag, carry some damage on the board. They didn't define what kind of explosive they're talking about, where they're getting it from or who he is. That's what it says. Explosives. Could also back up some drugs. Don't pack with pan, say going some damage with it in many weeks. Let it catch it, throw it overboard. These are extremes, Madam Speaker, but I have the right to say, because it's possible. Not because it's extreme, it's not possible. But then again, we will be party to it because we're making the law that makes it possible to happen. And when I say this, I'm talking to the opposition, really, because they're the ones who have to make this thing happen. B, a reference to a designated competent authority means the authorizing authority or the investigating authority. Authorization for controlled delivery. See how the authorization for controlled delivery comes in now. A controlled delivery is lawful only if it has been authorized in accordance with this part. This is how a controlled delivery takes place. And now you know what the controlled substances are. 2, the authorizing authority may, on an application by a senior police officer, give written authorization for. See, just a senior police officer has to make the request for an authorized delivery. A controlled delivery to be carried out, and B, specified persons or classes of persons to carry out or participate in the controlled delivery. All these things that the Premier spoke about do exist. They exist. The question I have is, how do you go about apprehending the persons who commit these offenses? I do not believe in entrapment. And I see a lot of that in this bill. And I think that anytime you're talking about concealing your identity, undercover and all that kind of stuff, these surveillance, electronic surveillance and what have you, going down a dark road that I don't intend to follow you, honestly. Conditions for authorizing a controlled delivery, Madam Speaker. 38C. The authorizing authority shall not approve an application for a controlled delivery unless satisfied on reasonable grounds that A, a serious offense has been, is being, or is highly likely to be committed. You see, the minds of these people, I wonder if we should be entertaining the way they think. You hear that, Madam Speaker? is highly likely to be committed. Why wait for it to be committed? Why not stop it? So you're gonna do a controlled delivery to have it carried out. What was that bomber in Kansas City? The Kansas City bomber? Blew up that building in Kansas City? You think they waited? You think that was a controlled delivery? They waited to see it happen, and after it happened, they just swoop in and say, "Oh, we got the guy who did it," or they could have stopped it. I don't understand, Madam Speaker, the mentality. The road that they're asking me to go down. I believe in prevention, Madam Speaker. B, the nature and extent of the suspected criminal activity are such as to justify the conduct of the controlled delivery. C, an unlawful activity will be limited to the minimum necessary to achieve the objectives of the controlled delivery. D, the controlled delivery will be conducted in a way that ensures that, to the greatest extent possible, any illicit goods involved in the controlled delivery will be under the control of a law enforcement officer at the end of the controlled delivery. Any illicit goods involved in the controlled delivery will be under the control of a law enforcement officer at the end of the controlled delivery. Madam Speaker, I know that there was a day, I've been sitting here for some years now, I know there was a day when this bill would walk in here and walk out. I hope this isn't one of those days. E, the controlled delivery will not be conducted in such a way that a person is likely to be induced to commit an offense that the person would otherwise not have intended to commit. Well, whoop-de-doo, Madam Speaker. All the time I was thinking that this is exactly the guy they were trying to catch. Poor guy who wouldn't do whatever he did under the tree if he knew that he was being watched. I thought this is the guy they were trying to catch. Poor fellow. Determination of applications, Madam Speaker. After considering an application, the authorizing officer may authorize the controlled delivery, subject to any conditions which the authorizing authority may consider appropriate, including as to the type and extent of substitution of the consignment. The authorizing authority. This is a term that comes up frequently, Madam Speaker. 2, the authorizing authority shall keep a written record of the application and the subsequent decision made under subsection 1. Again, term authorizing authority. Revocation and cancellation of authorization. The authorizing authority may revoke an authorization granted under section 38B. My gut is telling me, Madam Speaker, that this authorizing authority is the person who the commissioner of police or the agency such as immigration, customs, to make such authority possible. The treatment of item post-operation, Madam Speaker, 38F. Any item imported into the territory in the course of an approved covert operation or controlled delivery, when no longer required for the purpose of the due enforcement of this act, shall be dealt with as prohibited and illegal items as prescribed under the law of the territory. Should this stuff be destroyed, Madam Speaker? will it be kept as potential evidence for future crimes or involvement in crime? Because it says, any item imported into the territory in the course of an approved covert operation or controlled delivery, when no longer required for the purposes of the due enforcement of this act, shall be dealt with as prohibited and illicit or illegal items under the laws of the territory. I think a little more explanation to that would help, Madam Speaker. 38G, the Commissioner, in consultation with the Attorney General, may enter into agreement or arrangement with the law enforcement agencies of other jurisdictions or international organizations for the purposes of conducting controlled deliveries. Madam Speaker, I think that if this is to happen, I think the governor should be involved. I don't think that the Commissioner and the Attorney General satisfies me. This is a little high stake here, something I don't believe in to begin with. Covert operations, authorizations of covert operations. The authorizing authority may authorize covert operations for the purposes of gathering evidence of serious criminal behavior, or B, the prevention, detection, or investigation of an offense related to money laundering, terrorist financing, or other financial crimes. Madam Speaker, this is page 7, and we got a lot of space, we got a lot of paper. I think these other financial crimes should be listed just as terrorism financing is listed and money laundering. We got time, we got space. List them. This be-all and catch-all thing, I don't think that it serves any of us. Two, an authorization under subsection 1 shall not be given unless authorizing authority, A, has reasonable grounds to suspect that persons, whether known or unknown, are engaging or are about to engage in serious criminal behavior of the kind to which the proposed covert operation relates. Again, serious criminal behavior, Madam Speaker. Does this 1 year imprisonment or couple $1,000, it was $10,000, rise to the level of serious criminal behavior? Serious criminal behavior shows up again and again. D of this same section, Madam Speaker, says it satisfies on reasonable grounds that the proposed covert operations are properly designed to provide persons engaging or about to engage in serious criminal behavior in an opportunity to manifest that behavior. See? Give them an opportunity to manifest that behavior or to provide other evidence of that behavior. Again, I go back to this whole thing, Madam Speaker. Why not prevent it from happening? You're going to give them an opportunity to manifest the behavior or provide evidence of that behavior without undue risk that persons without a predisposition to serious criminal behavior will be induced to engage in such behavior that they would otherwise have avoided. You can call it what you want, Madam Speaker. I see it as one thing and one thing only. It's a form of entrapment that this House should not be involved in. I think we are capable of making any law to do anything that is right without having to involve ourselves in this kind of behavior. If it is that the police force needs manpower, I've sat here long enough and heard many times where the police need resources, and no government that I've sat in this house with denied it. As a matter of fact, at one time, one governor got overly ambitious and he went into the treasury himself, took out money for whatever. And at the same time, the sitting premier, he wasn't either properly advised or he never denied them any resources that they needed. So the point I'm making there, Madam Speaker, is if resources is a problem, just ask for it. If you need more manpower, it's available. Don't have to resort to this kind of behavior. And then here we go. Protection from liability. You know it was coming, right? 38L. Notwithstanding any other law, an authorized person who engages in conduct authorized under this part shall not be subject to criminal or civil liability for that conduct, even if such participation would, but for this part, constitute an offense. See? Somebody know what I'm talking about. A little fishy. They could be challenged. So here they go. Here they go. Indemnification. And they're asking us to write this law. Which genius in this house came up with this? Which of the 13 of you came up with this? Tell me. Which one of you going to come up with this? But you're going to make it, right? You're so bright. But none of you came up with it. 2. Subsection 1 shall apply retrospectively. Now, we had a little session in here in the term. What was that term? There you go. Vic. Term retroactive came up. You're not going to see it in here, but they got retrospective. Now, none of you are supposed to be smart enough to know that they're one and all the same. None of you, especially you in the opposition. Friends, enough time left over there. Yeah. So anyhow, back the subject to subsection 1 shall apply retrospectively to any participant in a covert operation or controlled delivery conducted prior to the commencement of this part, provided that the requirements of A, section 38C, in the case of a controlled delivery, B, subsection 38H2, in the case of a covert operation, or C, section 38I, in the case of electronic surveillance, could have been met had they been enforced at the time. What do you call this piece of legislation? When you make a piece of legislation with language like this, what do you call that? Can you make a law looking back? What do you call it? No, that's not grandfather. There's another word for it. Not retrospective. Retroactive legislation. Can you really do that? Can you really do that? If that's the case, then every man on trial will go to jail. We'll make a law to make sure that whatever argument his attorney put up in court You will go right wrong like that. Man, if you want to catch a criminal, the criminals are not idiots. They know that there's no law against jumping over a 10-foot fence. So you jump over the 10-foot fence. And how are you going to make a law now saying if you jump over a fence at more than 8 feet tall, you go to jail? Again, I'll go to regulations, Madam Speaker, 38N. Regulations for special investigative techniques. The governor may make regulations to provide for A, the procedures governing controlled deliveries, covert operations, and electronic surveillance. B, the handling, storage, and use of data obtained through the special investigative techniques referred to in paragraph A, including measures to ensure the security of information disclosed by or to the investigatory authority. C, the training and certification of personnel involved in the activities referred to in paragraph A. And D, the oversight and reporting mechanisms to ensure the proper conduct of activities referred to in paragraph A. And E, any other matter necessary or expedient to give effect to the purposes of this part. These regulations, Madam Speaker, should be subjected to a positive resolution in this House. Madam Speaker, I came to Tortola in 1992. And upon coming here, no. I'll tell you what I did. I came here in 1992. And upon arriving here, Madam Speaker, I was invited to a meeting at the BVI High School, my alma mater. And when I got there, Madam Speaker, what I saw, I was shocked. Because every window had bars on it. The burglar bars, they call them on it. And I said to myself, what the? Not Tortola, are you serious? Seriously? And when I told people about it, they're like, so what do you think? It's like we have arrived. Crime is something that we got now. We got crime. I said, before they nip this in the, you know what? They're putting up burglar bars. You telling me that they didn't know who the 3 or 4 guys who were breaking into those places? No. They're creating an entire industry. Every welding shop you go by, they were making burglar bars. So you glorify it back then. Now you're paying the consequences. A guy told me I was walking the street. I'm a registered architect, professional. I'm walking the street. A guy tells me, see, he laughing at me. Every little boy you see, they got more money on you. He thought it was a joke. Not me. He thought it was a joke. You're glorifying this behavior. Here you are now, trying to clean it up. Look how you're trying to clean it up. Asking me to do something that I totally, I believe in human rights. I believe in the rights of the individual. I don't believe in infringing upon people's human rights. Entrapment is one such thing. I don't believe in it. I submit to you, Madam Speaker, that the police department in this country know every criminal. They're even trying to turn some of us into criminals. They know who they are. They know where to hang out. They know where to live. They're looking for an easy ride. This easy ride that they're looking for is for us to make legislation that would have the guy end up walking into the police station with his hand behind his back. They say, you got me. If we write this law, the guy has no choice. Because he could be in church, kneeling at the communion rail. Before he get the bread, they're going to grab him. I got you. It's in here. But the Premier has said, we have the opportunity to make sure that the Bill of Rights that's enshrined in our Constitution is upheld. I think that we have the intelligence in this House among us to see to that happening. I am sure that after we were finished with those bills that came before us, the marathon that we went through, writing bills and not writing, fixing bills to turn them into law, that we are 99.9% confident that we did the right thing, and 99.9% comfortable that those bills are for the betterment of the territory. This bill should be no different when we are done with it. Thank you, Madam Speaker.